A transmissão está começando. Todos os participantes estão no modo somente escuta.
Hello and good morning, everybody. Thank you for your presence on another CW's webinar series. This time we're discussing the fourth quarter 2022 Global Cement Trade Prices Report. And this is our first major webinar of the year on the cement sector outlook. So without much further ado, let's go into the presentation that we have prepared for you this week. On the next slide, we have the presenters, which include myself. I'm Prashant Singh. I'm a director with CW Group out of CW's Mumbai office, and my colleague Lucas. He will be he's the one actually going to be taking you through the main content of the report. He's based out of our Lisbon office. You have our contact information here. Please feel free to get in touch with us regarding this report or any other queries and how CW Group can help perhaps meet your organization's strategic objectives. So on today we have a short introduction to the report. We have a short introduction to the economic review, and we'll provide a macroeconomic overview of what's happening in the global economy and its sort of impact on the global cement demand outlook and prices. We will share some domestic prices insights on across the globe, and sort of the prospects for trade prices also going forward. So for those who have already heard this spiel, I apologize, and for those who haven't, I'll just quickly present our company and sort of what we do. CW is present across 3 different verticals, which are the advisory, research, and media branch. Under advisory, we work with major global consultancies and leading institutions and multilateral institutions, including the World Bank. We provide consulting and advisory expertise on a diverse product portfolio, which includes, for example, a slate of advisory projects on circular economy in the MENA and West Africa regions. We also have done projects which included total business process analysis for an online art gallery website. Under the research umbrella, for which we are quite well known, we focus on global cement demand as well as detailed industry and country reports. Under that, the 2 main reports that basically go in sync are the trade prices report, which we're here to discuss today, and the volume forecast report, which is a twice-yearly outlook on global cement volumes. We also provide commodity price assessments for cement, clinker, as well as petcoke and coal. And last but not least, under our media umbrella, you can have access to our online vast database of articles. You can subscribe to various newsletters, including on cement, building materials, paper and pulp, petcoke, bulk, and coal. And we are re-engaging with our customers through in-person and industry-specific meetings. The next one that we have is the Cement Business and Industry Brazil and LATAM and Alternative Fuels and Raw Materials 2023, which is slated to take place in Sao Paulo, Brazil on the 15th and 16th of March 2023. So just a couple of, almost just literally a month and a half from now. So if you're still interested, please do get in touch with us and we will be happy to provide you with the relevant details. So let's quickly get into the report itself and what it includes. This report is updated on a quarterly basis. The statistical model on which this report is based on is updated in the 2nd and 4th quarters. So you are getting the absolute latest sort of coefficient that were worked on. This includes prices for gray, white, clinker and granulated slag. We also look at import and export prices, and as well as share an outlook for the next quarter. There are regional prices and monthly trade volumes. We cover currently 70 countries, including almost all of Europe, the significant parts of Asia, North America, and South America. There are some patches of information in Africa. We're constantly trying to increase our level of data accuracy in Africa to add more to our database. This year, we do not include Ukraine for obvious reasons, given the current scenario there. Currently, in this trade prices report, we're covering almost 86% of global trade for these products. We have almost 48 markets currently across these different products, and the current forecast there over the next 3 months, last 2 months, has been less than 6%. As you can imagine, this has been extremely challenging, trying to understand what the picture will look like given the volatility and given the various macroeconomic and geopolitical acts that are still at play. If you would like to get a more detailed description of what the report contains, please feel free to go to the link on the web on this PDF, which will be shared with you after this meeting. So as you can see, this is our current coverage for the various different products and prices. Africa is one of the regions which has the most white spots, something that we are always trying to sort of fix, but it remains a distinct challenge given the fact that we need reliability of data and a consistency of sources to add to our tally. Needless to say, we are making constant efforts and endeavors to do that. So quite quickly, I would like to give sort of a quick outlook on what's happening in the global scenario before I hand it over to my colleague, who will go into details about what this has had on cement prices. So according to the latest IMF report, which was only published a couple of days ago, global economic growth is slated to go down from 3.4% previously to 2.9% this year, which actually represents a 0.2 upgrade in their October version, as they believe that global economic outlook has sort of improved slightly. And this is mostly contingent on the fact that China has sort of done away with zero COVID and is reopening. So that has had a positive impact. However, significant downsides still remain, which include the fact that since China has opened from zero COVID, the total implication on their health system in terms of their ability to handle mass numbers of infections remains to be seen. Also, the war in Ukraine or the conflict in Ukraine could possibly escalate, especially during the spring season, which would have definite implications on sort of economic outlook globally. And inflation, unfortunately, remains a constant threat, negatively impacting growth prospects. Nevertheless, the US economy is expected to slow down to 1.4% in 2023, actually much better than previously forecasted when a recession was on the cards. In Europe, the Eurozone is expected to grow by 0.7%, still a little bit better than what was expected previously. And this is predominantly the fact that the Eurozone has made significant progress in terms of diversifying its energy supplies, and fortunately suffering from a less harsh cold winter, which allowed it to navigate with a lot of its natural gas supplies intact. In the case of emerging markets and the developing markets in Asia, we expect growth to rise, or the IMF expects the growth to rise slightly to around 4% in 2023, and increased to 4.2% in 2024, largely on the back of a stronger performance in China, and also expecting that the ASEAN economies will recover strongly in the second half of this year and going into next year. This year, remarkably, China and India will account for half of the global growth, and while the United States and the Eurozone will combine for 40% or so. Growth is expected to be around 3.8% in sub-Saharan Africa. This remains a consistent challenge, especially the economic scenario in South Africa is of deep concern. They're suffering from increased blackouts, which is having a considerable impact on industrial production. So, and South Africa being a major, African economy, is going to possibly negatively impact the overall regional growth if they're not able to get a handle on this very important aspect. In conclusion, though, the economic outlook still remains challenging, but we see some shades of sunlight slowly penetrating. Our hope remains that this year we'll sort of see the conclusion of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, and that will sort of considerably help ameliorate a myriad of the challenges the global economy currently faces, especially after post-COVID. And with that, I would like to now pass this presentation on to my colleague, Lucas Pimenta. He will now take you through the deep content of this presentation and sort of the insights on the global trade prices report. So over to you, Lucas. Thank you.
Thank you, Prashant. And going on our shipping and energy review section, and considering the recent conflicts, it's very hard to have a better understanding of trade prices for cementitious products without looking at main sea and container freight trends. The Baltic Index, which tracks rates for ships carrying dry bulk commodities, settled at 1,140 points as of January 18, on the back of a downward trend in demand across all segments. The rate for Handymax vessels since October 2022 had a negative performance as a consequence of a change in consumer patterns, as well as reduced purchasing power caused by rising inflation. Meanwhile, projections show a challenging period in the first half of 2023, with a positive outlook by the third quarter as China starts to pick up with its zero-COVID policies. Additionally, Supramax saw the biggest decline in the last quarter of 2022, but on a positive note, the lack of new builds and limited supply caused by the previous period might boost the market recovery in the second half of 2023 and early 2024. And a ceasefire agreement between Russia and Ukraine remains the major positive outlier, while China's domestic coal production remains one of the major risks in the medium and long term. But seasonal improvements in the dry bulk market are expected, and overall dry bulk freight rates may return to pre-pandemic levels in the next few months. In terms of container freight rates, commonly known as Freightos Baltic Index, we have been seeing a decline from the second half of 2022. The rate from North Europe to North America has been steady throughout the last semester, and from Asia to America it has declined in the third quarter and stabilized in the end of the year, primarily due to the net effect of the Chinese slowdown, but it's expected to get better for the beginning of 2023. This is an overview of energy prices evolution to better understand its impact on production costs and transportation. In December, bunker IFO, prices decreased by 15.7% in the Mediterranean basin on a monthly basis, and while during the same period, prices declined by 1.4% in the Persian Gulf and 8.8% in Northern Europe. A slowdown in construction activities in China and India has impacted coal prices in the third quarter of 2022, but both countries have been given prospects of infrastructure investments for the year of 2023 as a response to the Asian market pressure. Additionally, natural gas prices continue to sharply decline, especially in Holland, since they are peaked in the end of August. One of the reasons could be that the winter was not so severe this year in Europe, but prices remain volatile and reactive to the conflict in Ukraine. In December, the Newcastle coal price is expected to have reached $414.5 per ton, down for the $425 per ton in the previous month. Europe's electricity prices collapsed after such a high point, but still significantly high. Major economies have set regulatory measures to limit the impact on consumers and schemes to raise funds to finance the crisis. Countries including France and Germany had a decrease in energy prices in the fourth quarter of 2022 of 48.4% and 46.4% respectively on a quarterly basis. As a result of the factors mentioned above, global export and import prices for all cementitious products continue to be impacted at different levels depending on the product type, shipment, and regional scenario. Now, I'm providing some insights on the current market situation. But of course, the report includes a much more detailed analysis of what is happening and what to expect in the next quarter for both ex-work and retail prices. So to begin with, ex-work prices in the fourth quarter of 2022 are expected to see an increase quarter on quarter across all regions, with the exception of South America. Chinese cement prices, despite an accentuated decline on a yearly basis, are expected to increase quarter on quarter due to the pressure in the market caused by the pandemic developments in the country. As a consequence of cement prices increasing in most provinces on a quarterly basis, ex-working prices in China are estimated to see an increase of more than 1% in the fourth quarter. Meanwhile, in the Med Basin, Italy and Egypt's ex-work prices are expected to witness the biggest increase on a quarterly basis of 7 and 2.5% respectively. This is mostly due to the increase in production costs in both countries. Eastern Europe and CIS is expected to have a more moderate ex-works prices increase in the fourth quarter of 2022 compared to the third quarter increase of more than 20%. Czech Republic is expected to have the biggest ex-work prices increase in the quarter in the region. Meanwhile, Kazakhstan's ex-work prices is expected to have the second biggest increase in the region at around 2% quarter on quarter. In North America, the US ex-work prices is expected to see an increase of over 2% quarter on quarter. And additionally, in November 2022, the value of expenditures in construction in the US increased by 0.2% compared to the previous month, while increasing 8.5% compared to the same period last year. Last, Western Europe ex-work prices saw an increase of around 1% quarter on quarter in the fourth quarter of 2022, with all markets witnessing prices increase due to the rising energy prices, scarcity of raw materials, and delivery delays, which are adding pressure on the cement prices. In this slide, we are presenting the cement ex-work prices variation on a yearly basis for the fourth quarter. Ex-work prices variations are expected to range from a decrease of over 16% in China to an increase of over 70% in the Med Basin region. In Russia, cement export prices are estimated to have a robust yearly increase. This situation is relative to the economic sanctions imposed by several countries on Russia, which are having an enormous impact on Russian economy. Now, in the US, export prices for cement are forecasted to increase around 16% year on year in the fourth quarter. The annual inflation rate in the US hit 6.5% in December 2022. Meanwhile, energy prices rose 7.3% in the month. In South America, a yearly export prices increase of almost 12% is estimated for the fourth quarter. Brazil and Colombia are amongst the economies with the biggest increase in export prices, followed by Ecuador and Peru. The Brazilian cement industry faced increases in production costs as a consequence of the ongoing Russian-Ukraine conflict. Therefore, export prices are expected to see an increase of over 19% year on year. In order to better understand the trade prices dynamics, and before we jump into the trade study, I would like to start by providing some country-level insights when it comes to cement demand. Overall, we are seeing a demand decline in most markets in the fourth quarter of 2022. Pakistan cement demand decreased year-to-date by 10.8% in December, after a 10.3% decline in the previous month. In Brazil, cement demand declined 2.5% from October to November, but remained a positive demand, reaching a 7% increase in demand in December. Additionally, cement demand in Argentina grew by 5.9% in December, after a growth of 7.3% in November. Other markets that are decreasing in demand are Morocco, Saudi Arabia, and Japan. To provide a context of the global market scenario, I will present a volume analysis of the trade cementitious products in the third quarter of 2022. The Med Basin and Asia Pacific Japan were the regions that reported the biggest export volumes during the quarter. Turkey remains the largest exporter of gray and white cement in the third quarter, and Vietnam the largest clinker exporter. When it comes to select export volumes, Japan remained the biggest exporter with a share of more than 50% of the total exports, followed by India and Germany. Now, in regards of the CW price index for gray cement export during the third quarter of 2022, there was an increase of almost 1% quarter on quarter, with Asia Pacific Japan prices increasing more than 4%, while Sub-Saharan Africa seeing the biggest price drop of almost 7% quarter on quarter. On a yearly basis, the CW price index for gray cement in Eastern Europe rose 11%, and the region represented over 8% of the globally traded volume during the quarter. In terms of CW price index for clinker export in the third quarter, prices increased around 3% on a quarter-on-quarter basis, with the Sub-Saharan Africa experiencing the largest price increase. Med Basin and Middle East are estimated to have the biggest increase in prices year on year. When it comes to white cement during the third quarter of 2022, prices increased by around 4%. Globally, white cement volumes increased almost 3% quarter on quarter. In the third quarter, white cement has witnessed an increase of around 15% on a yearly basis. Here, we also provide an overview of the CW price index for gray cement export percentages change between our estimations of prices in the fourth quarter of 2022 and our forecast for the first quarter of 2023. Globally, the CW price index for gray cement export is forecasted to continue to see an increase in the fourth quarter of 2022 as a result of the increase in production and transportation costs, aggravated by geopolitical conflicts and the pandemic. Sub-Saharan Africa is forecasted to witness the biggest price increase, followed by North America and the Med Basin. In Scandinavia and the Baltics, Middle East and Eastern Europe, prices are estimated to decrease. I would like to end the webinar with the closing remarks for our report. Please note that we focused on the highlights in this update, and you can find more details information in our report. Turkey remained the largest exporter of gray and white cement. Vietnam remained the largest exporter of clinker, while Japan remained the largest exporter of slag in the third quarter of 2022. The fourth quarter, on a yearly basis, export prices are expected to increase in almost all markets, with Sub-Saharan Africa and Asia Pacific witnessing the biggest increases. The CW price index for cementitious products are expected to see varying levels of increase. And for gray cement, as the CW price index in Sub-Saharan Africa and North America and the Caribbean is expected to see the highest increase in the first quarter of 2023. To finalize, I would like to thank you for your time and attention. Please don't hesitate to contact us if we can help you. See you in the next webinar.